Given the range of India's Agni 5, it is obvious that the missile is pointed in an eastward direction towards India's primary competitor, China. However, China has downplayed Agni 5 test launch, saying that India cannot compete with China's defense capability. In this next report, we take a closer look at Agni 5 and its regional impact.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now, 1.
This past Thursday, India successfully tested its Agni 5 missile that would give the South Asian nation the ability to deliver nuclear weapons to places as far off as Beijing and Shanghai. It is considered a big milestone in India's defense capabilities. The Agni 5 has a range of 5,000 kilometers, but that isn't the only feature that makes it so powerful. The missile also has what is called an MIRV capability. In other words, it is a multiple independently targeted re-entry vehicle. That means that one missile can carry multiple nuclear warheads, with each one going to different targets. When the Agni 5 is finally ready to be integrated into India's military, the missile will also have the ability to be launched from a mobile railroad platform. If successful, this will put India one step closer to securing a nuclear triad, which is a system that would make it possible for India to launch a nuclear weapon from land, sea and air. While some experts are anticipating an India-China arms race, other analysts say it is already underway. At least the war of words has already begun, as several different messages were emerging from China. Immediately following the test launch, Chinese media were downplaying the achievement, saying that despite the range of the missile, India has no chance of competing with China's military strength. Meanwhile, those in China's foreign affairs sector were sending a friendlier message, that the two regional powers should not be thought of as rivals. A few days after the launch, another message was emerging from China's experts in the defense sector, that India downplayed the missile's capability. China's official news agency carried a report claiming that the missile actually has a range much greater than 5,000 kilometers, Indian scientists have reported, and could reach most targets in Europe as well. It accused India of purposely understating the range to avoid concerning countries in other regions. The Indian media has fired back by accusing China of trying to provoke Western countries with such reports. But this development of deterrent capability by both countries is less about actually launching a nuclear weapon and more about elevating the global status of the nations as world power begins shifting from the west to the east. As for countries in Asia, most of which have bilateral relations with both countries, the India-China power struggle is likely to have an impact on foreign policy as well as domestic affairs. Reporting from Global Perspectives, I'm Madhushka Balasuriya for News First, International Desk.
In the second part of the interview with Mr. Prashant Gunaratne, we focus on the geopolitical consequences of India's Agni 5. Will this arms race between India and China become the Cold War of Asia? And if it does, what kind of an impact will it have on the other Asian countries, including Sri Lanka? Definitely. But when we come to compare the two countries and their capabilities, I think there's a known fact that China seems to have more superior intelligence and superior structures and technologies in place. However, when you compare the two, it seems that one of the reasons that keeps India from progressing as fast as China is their very own domestic political structure and the democratic alliances and the structures that they have in place. Do you want to comment a little bit on that?
Exactly. When you look at China, it's an autocracy. Vis-a-vis the democratic system which exists in India, we can definitely see the shortcomings of a democratic system when you look at Indian politics, where the central government is always in a decision-making gridlock because of coalition politics. The perfect example is the recently concluded United Nations Human Rights Council and the resolution of Sri Lanka, where the central government was actually in support against the resolution, but it was at the last moment that there was influence from the Tamil Nadu government. So there was some kind of influence from coalition politics. But when it comes to China, since it's an autocracy, it has the capability to pass resolutions, implement policies effectively, and get the outcome as fast as possible. So you can see the drastic contrasting differences between those two systems.
Mm-hmm. Speaking a little bit more about Indian foreign policy per se, there seems to be a consistent dichotomy of Indian foreign policy when it comes to the region of South Asia and then also the rest of the world. Recently, Indian pundits released a statement saying a 2.0 non-alignment policy where they do not interfere, kind of to say it's of China. It was just a prediction by the pundits and a suggestion to the government. But how do you see this dichotomy of Indian foreign policy? It's almost like so different that you can't identify the two.
Well, the foreign policies of a country are quite fascinating to understand and get hold of it. But prima facie, we can clearly see that the Indian foreign policy is pro-Western, although it's when it comes to regional issues, although it's non-aligned sort of policy. I don't think it's a non-aligned policy. If it was during the Cold War period, the Indians are definitely for a non-aligned policy. But today it's always pro-Western. But not anti-Chinese or anti-East Asian, because there are strategic important issues which are strategically important to each other. So I would rather say it's pro-Western rather than becoming a non-aligned policy.
Mm-hmm. So it's trying to be strategic. But now looking at the future, looking at Indian foreign policy in the years to come, and also with these two giants emerging stronger and stronger as the years progress, economically and also militarily, what are certain things that you are predicting as a student, as a lecturer in this area, predicting for Indian foreign policy? What are certain alliances they'll make? What are certain indications that we might have in the days, months, and years to come?
Well, we can clearly see that the SAARC system is not that strong as the ASEAN and the European Union. There should be a bright future for the SAARC if we are having India as an emerging global power. It would be good to be having that kind of global power in the South Asian region, being one of the poorest in the international arena. And I would also encourage India to test test other ballistic missiles, which is with the range of 10,000 kilometers, which would also match the military capacity of the Chinese when it comes to nuclear technology. And on the other hand, India should interact more with the neighboring countries, particularly Pakistan, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka, because the Chinese are having strategical alliances, have already established strategical alliances with all those countries in the periphery, particularly when it comes to the string of pearls strategy, which is actually intended to encircle India. And if the Indians are capable of maintaining cordial relations, bilateral relations with all the neighbors in its region, Indians would definitely be able to counter Chinese influence in the region. So probably I would encourage Indians and the Chinese to be more to have more cordial relations. And we'll probably head towards a bright future in that sense.
All right, thank you very much for your insight, and really appreciated what you contributed to the show. We'll be right back. You're watching Global Perspective.
Experts say that the arms race between India and China will most likely not escalate to the level seen during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Regardless of the advances in nuclear capability, both India and China still have relatively small nuclear arsenals compared to that of the United States or Russia. How all this plays out within Asia and how it affects Sri Lanka is yet to be seen. And before we go tonight, we want to say a big thank you to all our viewers. Today marks the first-year anniversary of Global Perspectives, and we hope to bring you a lot more in-depth international news in the year to come. With that, we end tonight's show. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you at the same time here again on MTV Sports next Monday. Thank you for joining us, and good night.